Come on.
Kian. Wait.
You keep going for the bottom, man. Start with your glass.
Wait. What was it again?
Sláinte.
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 Yeah, sláinte.
Is that Gaelic?
Yeah.
Salute. What does it mean in Gaelic?
It's like cheers, good health.
Do you ever say cheers?
Yeah, I know. I know. Anyway, less about
the English.
Yeah, I'm more
colonialism.
Which is interesting when you think about your show.
Yeah, I mean, basically, it's an adaptation of colonialism. I mean, it's basically
and your own adaptation of
and then my own adaptation of it too. Exactly. Yeah, I'm taking from and then they people that I'm portraying in my videos and stuff have taken from what they were told. So I mean, it's all adaptation and how we kind of make traditions for ourselves in a way, and how we make things important to us. So I hope the work people question what's important to them, and how these traditions become important. That's one goal that I would want to have.
Those adaptations then are your acts of faith and your portrayals of these people that you have faith in or giving you faith.
Yeah, I have huge amount of faith in the people that I'm portraying and the people that I'm photographing. I've lived with a lot of these men for a year or 2 years at a time. I've worked the fields with them. I've broken horses with them, and it's just interesting how at the end of the year they do these kinds of things to thank the supreme being. Thank you for such a great year of work and of harvest and this and that. But what's interesting is every culture has that. I mean, who do you in Ireland? Who do you thank for a great year?
Each other.
Well, that's good too.
Yeah, I mean, our faith is in each other. And
as a community?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's about community. Yeah, exactly.
And it's about your personal community.
Exactly. And the community I want to create. And the community that I would like to live in. And, I think adaptation is also a way of survival. Because, I mean, I would like to have my own role models. I'd like to have my own, I was told in Catholic school, Saint, Anthony and, Saint, Francis of Assisi, you have to live your life like these people. Of course, I would love to live my life like these people. I mean, who wouldn't? But
you gotta live your life like your life.
Exactly. And it was kind of crazy as they did. If you think about it, Saint Francis of Assisi came from a lot of money, didn't really want to fight a war, and he was like, hey, screw you, mom and dad, I'm going to go become a friggin' hermit.
Yeah. Tell me about the importance of the male figures in this act of faith.
The male figures, it basically comes from my childhood having two uncles that were basically my male role models. One being Stephen A., which was like a, Navy pilot, Top Gun pilot, and Vincent, which was a tap dancing, show tunes, Disney illustrator queen that I absolutely loved and adored. And I lost Vincent in '91, and Stephen A. is still with us. But I mean, those were basically my two male role models. So I never saw any difference or anything wrong with being these two kinds of men, I guess you would say. And some people would want to put a border or put a wall between those two guys, but I never did. I always lived my life thinking that you could be either way. There's no problem with that. It's like you can't be one way or the other way. You can be both of these people. And I've always lived my life that way.
And in terms of that, this is why you're portraying these role models as these saints then?
Yeah, basically. I mean, Joaquin's father is, as a role model, those are my uncles, but as role models or as saints, I guess you would say, if we want to use the word saints, I guess I would say Joaquin's father is very stoic, and he has this kind of backstory, which would be one, and then AA having the accomplishments he has being the other, and having these role models. And I mean, even someone like AA himself, I've called him in my past, even when I've interviewed him and talked to him, I call him my dinosaur or my endangered species, because I mean, there's not a lot of men like AA that are of his age that that have his accomplishments and have his experience that haven't passed away. You know, growing up, when Vincent passed away, it was like, AIDS, you know, basically, if you're gay equals you have AIDS equals you're gonna die. So gay plus AIDS equals death. And I didn't. It scared the shit out of me when I was a kid because basically my uncle disintegrated and died in my arms, and I was always afraid to be that. But now I am who I am.
So essentially, this show is an autobiographical show.
Pretty much, you could say that. And I mean, the self-portrait or the portrait I did of myself basically kind of talks about that. I have two sides. One being, all of this frock, I guess you would say, and then the other side being very manly, hardcore tools, But I mean, it's who I am and it's what I am, and I just just be who you are and embrace and basically learn from your past and learn from your family, I guess you would say. I don't know. It's kind of hard to say because you do you work through things to make more work, and you just basically things become self-revealing after you've done them, which I find more intriguing than basically having an idea and executing it.
So, can you talk to me about this piece, because it seems to be a very it's the linchpin for me anyway of this whole work between the video piece and the other work.
Definitely. So basically, this is a something you call a retablo, or you can call it a prescimento. But basically, going to Iraq and being in Iraq, I was awarded that badge, which is an award from the Army called a CIB, which is called a Combat Infantry Badge. And I put the CIB in front of the Guadalupe. It was something that the Guadalupe has always been in my life since a kid, and I've always kind of like, when it's always white-knuckled or an oh shit factor or a mad pucker factor, I've always kind of been like, hey Guadalupe, can you get me out of this situation? So to be awarded the CIB, you have to basically be in combat for 6 months. Not just in combat, but you have to be in harm's way, and you have to be in what the government says is combat. And I was awarded the CIB, so I basically put the CIB on top of the Guadalupe, and that's what you see in the video, and you'll also see it in the installation. And this is my own Guadalupe. I think what's interesting about this is when I had it made in Mexico and we were shooting the video, that the people basically totally understood it. And it was fine, and they embraced it just as much as they would embrace just a normal Guadalupe. And
they must have enjoyed the fact that you took a reinterpretation.
Yeah,
it's like an adaptation.
Yeah, exactly. It's this adaptation thing that keeps on happening and happening. And if you think about the Guadalupe, she's an adaptation too. I mean, she basically appeared to Juan Diego in the same area that the Aztecs used to pray to a fertility god. So I mean, it's just this storytelling and this tradition that keeps on going from generation to generation. I think what's also interesting is not only have I been awarded the CIB, but another uncle of mine has been awarded the CIB in World War II and in the Korean War. So it's like I got my CIB in the Iraq War, if you want to call it a war. So it's just this thing of generational acceptance, I guess you would say. That's kind of crazy, I don't know. But.
No, I can certainly understand that. I mean,
and then we have all of these kind of santitos, or the things that you would buy after you would go to a church or a cathedral in Mexico. If you want to just, I don't want to just say Mexico, Nicaragua, anywhere Central America, even in Italy. I mean, they have these things where they actually, I mean, a lot of it, and if you're a good Catholic, you always buy it in the gift shop that's right next to the church.
A very prevalent part of the show is repetition. Like between repeating photographs of objects of other photographs, to even like like Mary Guadalupe and in the video and the physical presence of it in the show and the installation and everything else. I mean,
yeah.
What's the importance of the repetition?
Well, basically, it's an act, and how this act is done repetitively, and repeating imagery, repeating acts, repeating, you know, presence, and how these things are kind of ingrained in your head, where you act after a while, you just take it for granted and you start believing it, and how these things just keep on going and going and going and going in different forms, in different ways,
Different scales,
and it's just like you. After you've seen it like 20 times, then you just take it for granted, and it's dogma, you know. It's like, oh, okay, that's what it is, and that's all it is. Why do you? And then
is that like the dogma of the repetition of like this, like, and you know this as much as I know this, is the stand up, sit down situation in church.
Exactly, man. Exactly. It's like, I think what's phenomenal is when you take somebody to church, or if they want to go to church. I mean, who goes to church anymore? I don't go to church anymore. I mean, I go to church when I go visit my mom, or
When you've been bold, when you've been bad, and you're just like, shit.
And it's like, and then you feel like a badass when you take communion, and they're like, oh my god, you haven't gone to confession. It's like, no, fuck that, you know.
Oh really? I don't even know how to take communion anymore, man.
You just stick your tongue out, dude.
Yeah, but like, there's the whole on there bit and everything. I don't know.
But yeah, I mean, it's yeah, exactly. It's just, the thing is that I mean, it's even when you would go to school, even in Catholic school, where the priest would walk into the room and you'd stand up at attention and you'd sit down. And the priest comes in, you'd stand up at attention, you'd sit down, and then you see the priest in a different context, and you still have that, you still have that
reflex.
Exactly. It's like muscle memory.
Is that almost like the reflex that in some way draws a repetition or comparison to being in the armed forces?
Yeah, I mean, muscle memory is muscle memory. I mean, you fucking put together an M4, and you put it together in the dark, you can put it together in the light. You know what I'm saying? It's just like you just do it. And it's just like you don't ask any questions. You just make it happen. And that's the other thing, make it happen. You might have a fucking stick and a couple wires and a little bit of C4. Okay, you better make a bomb out of that. Make it happen. You make it fucking happen.
So you get a camera and a printer and you make it happen?
Exactly. You don't, you lost your grant, but that's okay. Just still make a show and make it happen.
One thing that really intrigued me, and if, just from looking around at the work and stuff like that here, is what you kind of determined as like your kind of like death portrait.
Oh yeah.
Where it is.
Well, yeah, I mean, that kind of.
It's just one of my favorite shots, and I'm just curious as to why you see it as like your death portrait.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's kind of like. I mean, one of the things that when I came back from Iraq was, I didn't really come back with any scratch or anything, and I lost guys, and I've lost local guys, local national guys, and I mean, what would have happened if I got it, if it was my time, and it's just basically kind of that, talking about that, and looking at that in the sense of, I don't know, it's kind of hard because it's I mean, it's
Well, it's a fact of life. I mean,
exactly. And it's like, and then you kind of question yourself, and then you kind of feel guilty about it. You come back and you're like, oh shit, dude, nothing happened to me. Am I fucking lucky? Is it my time? Whatever, And then you got guys that lost a leg or lost an arm or what have you, and you're just kind of like, it kills me, man, because when you're walking down the street and you see like a 20-year-old kid and he's losing an arm or anything, and instantly you go back to like, oh shit, did that happen in Iraq? Did that happen in Afghanistan? Where did that happen? And that sucks because that kid has to deal with that for the rest of his life. And it's just like, maybe I didn't lose an arm or a limb or anything, but it's just like, it sucks because you feel like, like nothing really happened to me.
Again, to reiterate, like this, it is that sort of act of fate that there was something out there that
Yeah, and it's,
they have to believe in something as well, like, I mean, afterwards, so, I mean, they must...
Yeah, I mean, it sucks because it's like, you know, you'd get a kid that never left the FOB, you know, the forward operating base or the base or whatever. And then the day that they go out with you on a fucking mission or on a patrol or something, they get fucking blown the fuck up. And you're like, oof. And I've been on, this is my 17th or my 70th, you know, it's like, how the fuck did that kid get fucking blown up, you know? It sucks, but it's, you know, it's just what happens, you know? What do? You know? You live life. Yeah, you know, there's this kind of joke about how, you know, the Spanish were able to take over the Aztecs because they came in with the, you know, Jesus on the cross. You know, if it was the Chinese and they came with the, you know, the fat Buddha, I don't think it would work. But since it was a crucifixion and some type of some bloody type of sacrifice, the Aztecs were like, hey, these are our kind of people, you know.
We'll roll over.
Hey, man, we're on the same fucking page here, man. So, you know, it worked out. But, you know, I mean, that's the thing. Again, what do we come to? Adaptation, you know, adaptation. And, you know, that's kind of the point of everything, you know, adaptation to your own needs or your own, you know, your own necessities, I guess.